皆さん、英語のそーたです。
And I'm Riley.
Hi Riley, have the cherry blossoms bloomed? Not yet?
A bit, yeah, there's a few out. Probably not mankai yet, but yeah, they're blooming.
Oh, yeah, in Osaka too, a little bit. And how did they do with the gender revealing? Not yet?
No, that's next weekend.
Next weekend. Okay. Yes, はい。皆さん、桜はもう皆さん地域咲いてますか？the cherry blossoms 桜。で、bloom で咲くなので、そうですね、咲くなので、過去形だったら bloomed だったり、今はもう咲きましたかっていう質問でしたけれども、皆さんの地域はどうですか？もう咲いてますか？大阪はちょっとだけ、なんか、色づいてきたかもって感じですし、そう、ライリーの地域もね、ちょっと咲いてるみたいで。Oh, Riley, do you know, in Hokkaido, the cherry blossoms bloom in May?
Yeah, I've been around Golden Week time. I've been to the cherry blossoms in Hokkaido.
Oh, really? Then,
Yeah.
in May, they're blooming. Because I can't believe that's actually happening.
Yeah, I was surprised. I just went there because, it was Golden Week, so I had time off. And I went with Yuki and my mom. This was probably 2018 or 2019 or something. And we just happened to go to, I forget which park. I don't remember the name of the park in Sapporo, but we were going to just go walk in this park. And it turned out it was cherry blossom season and there were people everywhere. Like it was super crowded. So it was nice. We got to see cherry blossoms.
Wow, they were in full bloom around that season.
It must have been close because tons of people were there, on their blankets doing their hanami.
I see, because I feel like the cherry blossoms are for spring, and in Osaka, spring is happening in April, so I still can't believe that's happening in May. But yeah, you had that kind of experience. That's great. そう、皆さん、ご存知だと思うんですけど、僕ね、北海道の方とかとね、こう話をお仕事とかで昔した時に、数年前した時に、そう、桜って北海道は5月に咲くのでって聞いた時に、なんか驚いて、なんか日本の中でもいろんな地域があって、そっか、5月に咲くんだなっていう。なので4月にね、満開で咲いてる時はまだね、満開じゃない地域もあるっていう。なので今のこの色づいてきたっていうのを話した時に、北海道の方とかだったらまだ全然なのかなとか、リスナーの方でね、全国にいらっしゃるので、なんかいろんな方を思いながら今話しておりました。なので今日はそれにちょっとちなんで、外国人のね、観光客の方も多く来られるシーズンだと思うので、ちょっといろいろ話してみたいなと思ったことでお話ししてみたいなと思います。So Riley, are you ready?
Yep.
そうたと
Rileyの
台本なし英会話レッスン
Episode 306.
Okay, what is the topic for episode 306, Riley?
Yeah, it's rude tourists.
はい。Sorry, go ahead.
Or tourists who have bad manners.
はい、今回のお題は、マナーの悪い外国人です。で、そうだ、in full bloom? That's also, can you write it too?
Oh, sure.Yeah.
で、そうだ、その間に、皆さん、もう3月31日を超えて聞いてくださってる方もいらっしゃるかもしれないんですが、僕のスピーキング本、3年かけて作った本が今、全国の書店に並んでると思います。3月31日リリースでございますね。で、ネット書店にももちろんありますし、本当にポッドキャストみたいに全部のページに音声がついてまして、なるべく、そう、口に出して、スピーキングをやっていただきたいので、またなんかね、ちょっとその専用の説明のエピソードとか作りたいなとは思ってるんですけれども、初級の方はもう、まずはちょっとでもいいので、口から出す。英語をね、どんどん口から出していただいて、中級上級以上の方は何パターンかの英語を作ってみるっていう形で、いろんな難しいちょっと日本語を英語にどう変換するかっていうのをやっていただけたらなと思います。なので、早く、パッと、長く話すっていうところを意識して、取り組んでみてください。なので、ぜひ、また、相対式、思考スイッチの法則15で調べていただくと、ネットとかにも出てくると思いますし、概要欄のリンクもご覧ください。では、パッといきたいなと思います。 So, spring is
Oh yeah,
coming.
sorry, one sec. I realized you can't hear my clapping, right? I was clapping when you said you were
Oh, really?
releasing the
I
book,
couldn't.
but I guess yeah, the microphone. So anyway, yeah, congratulations.
Thank you. ありがと
Yeah.
う。そっか、ライリーが、拍手してくれてたみたいです。このマイクのね、ノイズキャンセリングやめてほしい。拍手だけはキャンセリングせんとってほしいんですけど、僕もいつも、これは Can you hear me doing that?
No. Maybe I heard
Um,
one, but I don't think so.
That's too bad. そう、皆さん、結構僕たち僕はね、結構エピソードの中で拍手してる時あるんですけど、ノイズキャンセリングで全部キャンセルされて、ライリーが今、そう、拍手してくれてるって聞いて嬉しかったです。ありがとうございます。はい。で、今日のお話なんですけれども、Yeah, the season, for the cherry blossoms or spring is coming or has come.
Hmm.
Then I guess this is the best season for tourists too. A lot of foreign tourists are coming or are going to come to Japan for the cherry blossoms viewing. So my question is, Then I wondered, and at the same time, I often see some articles or some videos on social media, and then those things are about people who have bad manners sometimes. Then how can we deal with them? Or when we Japanese people actually see those people, what can we do? That's the things I want to ask and discuss with
Mm.
Riley. So first of all, have you seen those tourists? Because you also know about the Japanese rules or Japanese people. So have you ever seen those people who are not following the Japanese rules?
Um, in in person, I haven't seen anything like egregious, like so
Mm,
anything really outside of the rules, you know.
mhm,
But I have seen some of those videos,
mhm,
you know, of people breaking the rules, being obnoxious. Um, especially I find especially it's people like streamers or people YouTubers or something like that who are kind of coming to Japan. I guess you could say for business. I guess they're coming to Japan to make content for something.
mhm,
They are sometimes some of the worst offenders in terms of like breaking the rules, you know?
mhm, mhm. Okay, then yeah. For example, when you see those videos on social media, uh, uh, yeah. Where is the line between acceptable or not acceptable? Can you give me some examples?
I mean, I think yeah, the line is basically when it starts to really inconvenience other people.
Mm-hmm.
Like there I can give you a line where I think it's not so bad. Actually a student in a lesson told me about a video where somebody at a ski resort was smoking a cigarette next to like a break cabin or something like that.
Mm,
Um, and you aren't supposed to smoke cigarettes outside at the ski resort, right? I'm
mm,
sure there are like smoking areas somewhere, but this wasn't a smoking area.
mm,
Um, so this tourist might have been, I don't know, American or Australian or something like that. But then a Japanese man comes and like almost yells at her, like talks to her very firmly not to smoke cigarettes there.
mm,
Um, and she, you know, she's kind of she apologizes, but then her husband, I think it was, starts talking like, you know, be nice about it. Like you don't have to yell at her about
mm,
this. Like just ask her nicely or something like that.
mm,
So I think in that situation, like she was smoking outside, which is against the rules for sure, but there was nobody around.
mm,
So she's not really hurting anybody, you
mm,
know? So I think, of course, it's fine for somebody to come up and say, "Hey, I'm sorry, you're not allowed to smoke here," or whatever. But yelling at her, I think, was not, or maybe not yelling, but he was very firm with how he scolded her.
mm,
And I think that's kind of over the line because, of course, sometimes tourists are going to make honest mistakes, and then sometimes they're going to do things that are over the line, right? That are too, you know, that actually hurt or inconvenience other people.
mm. Oh, okay. Then the line you were talking about is the line between um, how Japanese people can tell them not to do it. Oh, no, no. My line was about the line between acceptable behaviors and not acceptable behaviors done by foreign tourists. But maybe your point was the line between acceptable or not acceptable in terms of how Japanese people can tell them or warn them.
Not exactly. I'm saying like my line between acceptable and unacceptable behavior, or rather behavior, I guess you could say acceptable and unacceptable, but it's more like behavior, yeah, I guess that should be stopped immediately, maybe is how I should put it, because of course it is quote unquote unacceptable to smoke where you're not supposed to smoke. If there are rules about that kind of thing, but if that person is not hurting anybody else and it's kind of just we would say an honest mistake, then it maybe doesn't require scolding, but just like a little notice, a little kind of, hey, you're not supposed to do that, or something like that. So it's kind of both. I'm saying a little bit of like, I think obviously that person was making a mistake, was breaking the rules, but at the same time, she wasn't really hurting anybody. You know what I mean?
Yeah, then in that case, do you think smoking in that area is good or bad first, from your perspective?
Yeah, I think it's bad.
Bad. But
But
how the person is telling her is not really good at the same time.
yeah, exactly. I mean, I think, whatever country you're in, you should follow the rules of that country. So while I may personally think that smoking outside, if it's not a crowded area, is not a bad thing, you should be able to do it, because in most Western countries, that's kind of the rules. If you're outside and there's nobody around, smoking is fine. There's another thing about throwing your cigarettes on the ground, that's bad. But if you have like a portable ashtray or something, then I think smoking outside is generally okay. But in Japan, it's not. So people should follow the rules, that kind of thing,
And yeah, sometimes they don't really know about that. So yeah, we also have to understand, why they did that. Then we can think of how we can tell them. Yeah, that's the point, I guess. You were talking
Yeah.
about. なるほどね。そう。まず、ラインってね、言ってましたけど、境界線、ライリーにとって、そうそう、違う違う。まずは、そういう、マナー悪い外国人見たことありますかっていうところから始まってましたよね。で、ライリーは実際に、in person でね、なんかマナー悪いなみたいな感じで見たことは基本あんまないと。で、僕も正直あんまないんですよね。実際に目の前で見る、たまにあるかな。ちょっとそれは後で言いますけど、でもね、なんか結構ニュースとかいろんなところで聞くほどのもうこれやばいよねみたいなものはあんま実際見たことなくて、結構ちゃんと、なんでしょうね、守ってらっしゃる方多いんじゃないかなって思うのと、僕は結構、なんでしょうね、わかんないことあるんだったら仕方がないんじゃないって結構受け入れちゃうタイプなので、教えてあげるだったりとか、わからずにやっちゃってることってしゃあないやんって結構思ってしまうタイプなので、結構僕の友達とかでも、もう外国人はもうすぐこうしちゃうとかね、そう、ちょうど最近も話してたのが外国人が一緒に働いてて、なんか書類の書き方がわかんなくて、1から10まで全部聞かれて鬱陶しいんだよねみたいに言ってる友達がいて、それって別に教えてあげてもよくないですかと思って、でもそれって分かれへんねやんなって言ったら、いやでももうちょっと自分で調べたりとかできるやんって聞いて、まあその気持ちも分かるけどっていう。で次、全部書いたら、全部ひらがなで書きよんねんって言って、漢字とかで書かへんから読みづらいしって言って、でもそれって漢字書かれへんのからしゃあないちゃうのみたいな。僕は結構なんかそっちの立場も分かっちゃうので、なんか仕方がないんじゃないかなと思うところもあるんですけど、そう、なんですか、一般的にね、外国から来られてる方で、ちょっとマナーがね、悪いっていう動画とかニュースとか見たりするじゃないですか。なのでちょっとそこに話を次持っていきたいなと思って、またね、後で話しますが。で、ライリーも実際は見たことがなくて、ネットとかで、obnoxious、そうだ、obnoxious っていう単語出てましたよね。 type it please, Riley.
Yeah.
はい。
Uh,
すごい不快な、もう結構もう不快になるようなものをしている人もいると。で、それは大体ストリーマーズ、こう、ライブ配信とかする YouTuber の人だったり、撮影のためになんかしたりしてると、ちょっとなんかそれはおかしいんじゃないっていうのを見たりすることがあると。それがまずライリーが日本で見たことがある、ネット上とかで見たことがある不快なその行動っていうことでしたね。で、それを聞いたときに、なんか LINE ってどこなんだろうと思って、これがいい悪いのライリー視点での、視点ってどこなんだろうって思って聞いたときに、そう、最近、またそれも動画かなんかで見たもので、こうスキー場かどっかでタバコ吸っちゃいけないところで吸ってる外国人の女の人がいましたと。で、それに対して、まあ、firm って言ってましたけど、こう、きっぱりみたいな、結構はっきりの声で、叫ぶほどではないけれども、firm voice な感じで、そこダメですみたいな感じで言ってる男の人が誰かがいて、で、女の人がちょっと、すいませんみたいな感じで謝ってる時に、まあ、旦那さんが来て、で、なんでそんな言い方するんだみたいな感じで、言い合いになったのかなちょっとわかんないですけど、そういう動画があったと。で、僕が聞きたかったラインっていうのは、ライリーから見ての、その、受け入れられる、受け入れられないの、マナーの悪い行動のラインだったんですけど、多分視点を変えると、ライリーの受け入れる、受け入れられる、受け入れられないの視点として、その、日本人の注意の仕方のところのラインもあるし、あとは、マナーとして、多分分かっててやってるのか、分かってなくてやってるのか、あるいは今回のタバコだったら、外国だったらそれは基本ね、OK だったりするがゆえに分からずしちゃったっていうことなので、一応行動としては悪いことなんだけれども、そこまでなんか、きっぱり怒るのも、ちょっとなんか、ラインとしては、アクセプタブルじゃないんじゃないか。そういう点ではちょっともうちょっと寛容になってくれてもいいんじゃないかっていう、両視点でのラインのお話が出てたかなと思いましたかね。Then, if in a situation, the girl or woman was smoking and she knew the rule and then she never listened to the warning or advice. In that case, what do you think? She is a bad tourist?
I yeah, I mean, I guess so. There's like, I guess you would say she's a bad tourist. I mean, whatever. But it's again, this is my maybe my personal feeling about this, but if it's in a place where there's no one else around, even though it's against the rules, my feeling is it's not that bad. But I know that's a very foreign kind of concept, maybe not a super Japanese way of thinking, but
Yeah. Yeah. So maybe that kind of feeling is something foreign tourists might have in their minds, perhaps. But in Japan, yeah, in Japan, we Japanese people, try to follow the rules, even if there are not people in that place, especially about smoking or, yeah, like littering or that kind of thing. So you also think foreign tourists sometimes break the rules because they feel like, oh, that's okay because no one is here. Do you think they have that kind of feeling too?
yeah, I think it's not exactly because no one is there. It's not, I mean, maybe that might be part of it, but what I'm saying is if you know, the reason smoking somewhere is bad is because, other people who don't smoke may be, hurt by the smoking or offended by the smell of smoke or something like that. But if there's nobody around, then there's no reason you can really hurt someone except that you'll maybe throw your trash, your cigarette butt on the floor, which is bad all the time. Does that make sense? It's not really like, you won't get caught. There's nobody around. It's more like, no one can be affected by this, so it's not really bad.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's like you're not supposed to yell in a train because it's noisy and other people will be annoyed by it. But if there's no one on the train, then I guess you can yell, right? It's still maybe weird, but no one can be hurt by it, so it's really not that bad. Does that make sense?
Yeah, about the train rules or something, I can also feel if no one is there, they can talk at least, but not screaming though. But I think another problem could be, for example, if foreign tourists are talking loudly on the train, then if they're filming, for example, then if they post them on social media, other tourists might feel, oh, this is acceptable in Japan. Then no one is there in that situation, but people sometimes misunderstand the rules, Japanese rules. And about the cigarette stuff too, maybe Japan bans or those places prohibit people from smoking because there should be some possibilities of people littering, like throwing
Right.
on the ground. So by setting the clear rule, people cannot smoke here, those secondary problems might be stopped. So I think that should be another reason in Japan, why in Japan there is that rule, not doing this or please do not do this. Yeah, that's my perspective.
Yeah, no, I completely understand why Japan has the rules. I'm just, explaining why many foreign people may not feel the need to follow them all the time.
Yeah, and even for Japanese, by having those rules, they can't do anything. So even about customer service too, if once we accept one small, unusual thing, other customers or the same customers start saying, oh, I had that kind of service in the past, so can you do the same thing? So I think it's easier for people to set the clear goal at first. You know what I mean?
Sure.
そうね、ここ難しいですよね。でも僕もね、I really understand Riley's feelings too. なんか、日本ってたまにルールが厳しすぎる時があるので、一個ここがすごい面白いなと思ったのが、タバコを例えば吸っちゃいけないっていうのがありました。で、僕は最初に聞いてたのが、その外国人の女の人がね、例えばそのルールを知ってました。で、ここ吸っちゃダメですって分かってました。でも吸ってたとかってなった場合って、これってライリーどう思うっていう。で、ライリーとしては、バッドなんだけれども、いけないって分かるんだけれども、でも、誰もいないっていう状況の中で、吸っちゃいけないところで吸ってたとしても、誰にもこう迷惑かけてないし、その人がいないから、そういう意味では、それは時にアクセプタブルなんじゃないかっていう。で、個人的に外国人が、日本に来て、ルールをね、例えばこう、ちょっと守れない時とかって、もしかしたらそういう感覚がみんなあるのかなと思って、今、ライリーに聞いてたんですよね。みんななんかそういう感覚があるのかなっていう。一応ルール分かってるんだけれども、人がいないし見てないし大丈夫でしょっていう。で、自分の国とかではそれ大丈夫だからっていう。で、例えば電車とかでも喋っちゃいけないのは、周りの人がいるから。うるさくしてダメだから。で、タバコも煙がやっぱり周りの人に影響を与えるから、人がいるときは吸っちゃダメっていうのはわかるんだけど、人がいないときに例えば電車で喋っちゃダメとか、人がいないのにここで吸っちゃダメ、何の害もないのにっていうのがわからないっていう人もいるんじゃないかっていう、なんかそういう感覚がもしかしたらあるのかなって今話して思ったんですよね。でも僕のなんか視点としては、ね、電車はわかります。人がいなかったら多少はね、喋ってもいいと思うんですよ。でも、叫んだりとかはちょっと違ったりすると思うんですよね。で、タバコに関しても、ここ吸っちゃいけないっていうところは一応ね、やめといた方が、いいっていう思う理由が、なんかセカンダリーって言ってましたけど、なんか二次問題的なものが起こっちゃう気がして、つまり、もうここダメですってルール最初から決めておけば、例えば電車で、喋ったりしてます。で、それを外国人がじゃあ、SNS に撮って載せました。状況わかんない人がそれを見たらなんか誤解しちゃう気がすると思うんですよね。あ、日本ってこんなことやっていいんだ、みたいな。で、タバコに関しても、人がいないときは OK にしちゃうと、絶対可能性としてそこに litter って、そうだ、litter もね、タイピングしておいてもらいたいですけど、ポイ捨てする人もいたりとかっていう、つまりそういうもう二次的災害をもう抑えるという意味で最初からこれダメってしてる方が、なんか平和なんじゃないかなっていう、そういう意味では僕はなんかルールってある意味大事なんじゃないかなって、日本人に対してでもそれはね、思うかなっていう。Then, then for example, if someone was obviously not following the rules, then what would you do? And what can we do, Japanese people? What should we do? What do you think, Riley?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably best to inform them that it's against the rules. Um, in the case of the smoking lady, probably that's all that you need to do. You say, hey, I'm sorry, that's against the rules. And then they say, oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I'll stop. Hopefully. Now, if it's someone that knows it's against the rules and is, intentionally breaking them, then that's a different situation where, I don't know. I guess you can say, you can try to be firmer and say, hey, stop, or whatever. I don't know. There is an interesting thing there is like, is it something that's bad enough to merit calling the police or something like that? I don't know. Like, but, yeah, what can Japanese people do is kind of a difficult thing because I don't know, it could potentially be dangerous, I guess, for Japanese people. If this person is breaking the rules and, they know they're breaking the rules, they're trying to break the rules, I guess you could say, then telling them to stop could maybe be dangerous. I don't know. Probably not, but there's some chance.
Yeah, that's true. And on social media, I saw someone skateboarding on the street. And in Japan, there are some areas where they can skateboard. But in the station or in the building, some foreigners are skateboarding, and then the police officers are chasing after them. But they are just laughing, and then they're just running away, and they're filming at the same time.
Yeah.
Then this is absolutely bad, right?
I guess so. But that's skateboarding culture. I mean, that's like they've been doing that exact thing since, I don't know, the 1970s or something. Skateboarders skate in a place where they're not supposed to. The police come, tell them to stop, and the skateboarders run away. I mean, that is like a tale as old as time.
Then what should we do? And what do you think if you see? Yeah, of course. When I also see them, I don't tell them because that's maybe the dangerous part. So there are some parts like the dangerous parts and not dangerous parts, and if they are really they can understand people's warnings or advice, we should tell them. But maybe they don't understand us, so I won't tell them. But in your case, yeah. First of all, do you think this is okay or not okay in Japan?
Skateboarding?
Yeah, in the station, Tokyo Station or something.
Yeah. I mean, of course, it's not okay. But at the same time, that's the point of skateboarding. Like, I don't know. It's tough. Like, obviously, yeah, you shouldn't do it, and people should tell them to stop, or the police should tell them to stop. But also, like, that's what skateboarding's kind of all about. It's always been kind of a rebellious, breaking the rules, and maybe you could argue that was before there were skate parks, and now there are skate parks where you can go and skate legally, while following the rules. So that's a good argument, and I think, yeah, probably people should go to skate parks to skateboard, but at the same time, I don't know, it's like telling a fish not to swim or something like that. Skateboarders are always going to try to skateboard in a place where they're not supposed to, and it's bad, but it's also, yeah, I don't know. It's kind of,
and from our perspectives, do that in your country. Please don't do that in Japan. But your point is, that's happening in all the countries, right? No matter where they are. But yeah, why did they do that in Japan? And because especially we don't really like that kind of thing. Really,
sure.
Like not violent, but go too far. Then sometimes they break things on the street.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
You could break if they, do a skateboard trick on a bench or something, they could scratch the bench or maybe even break the bench. Sure, of course.
そうやねんな。そこがちょっとまずね、僕他で見たのが、外国人がね、スケートボードをバーって東京駅かなんかの中とかでしてるんですよね。でもそれは確かに外国のでも見るから、どこの国とかうんぬんじゃないと思うんですけど、バーってやってで、警察の人が追いかけてるんですよ。で、それを笑いながらこう、撮ってて、わーってやって、日本人でももちろんいると思いますよ。でもね、やっぱ外国人がやるそのレベルっていうのが、日本人のなんか度を超えてるというか、やっぱなんか外国クオリティなんですよね。もうハリウッド映画みたいな感じのところで、ブワーってやるみたいな。で、正直、僕たち日本人ってそういうの一番ちょっと苦手じゃないですか。こう、道でなんか、警察からかって、で、物壊すレベルぐらいまでブワーってされる、それが多分僕たちあんま好きじゃないと思うんですよね。で、それに対してライリーどう思うって言ったら、いや、それがスケートボードカルチャーだからねっていう、ルールを守らずっていう、これがなんかスケートボードの感じだからっていう、なんか、そっか、そういう視点もあるのかってすごい面白かったんですけど、どこの国でもだからあるっていうことなんだと思うんですよ。でも、じゃあ僕が言いたいのは、日本でやめてっていう、自分の国でやってって思っちゃうんですけど、日本って、なんかいろいろそういう趣深いみんなでね、こういうルール守りましょうみたいな、そういう良き文化もあると思うので、なんかそれをね、こう、我が物顔。いい言葉がそう、我が物顔でなんか自分の国のように好き放題されるっていうのが、やっぱ時にちょっと納得いかない部分ってあると思うんですよね。他なんかあるかな。いや、in this case, about the skateboarding stuff, I
Mm-hmm.
can't accept that. I cannot accept that because going too far and then breaking things, and I feel like they're doing everything as if they were in their own countries. So
Uh-huh.
we don't really like that kind of thing. If you are in Japan, please try to understand what the rule is or what we Japanese people respect. So this is the worst case for me. But acceptable or unacceptable, that kind of ambiguous one is talking, for example, loudly at a restaurant or on a train. Then there is a big group of people and then they're talking really loudly. And then in that case, what do you think, Riley? They don't understand the Japanese rule and they behave as they do in their countries. This is the difficult one for me.
Yeah. I think in Japan compared to other countries, the rules on trains are much more strict. I remember Yuki and I took a train when we were last in the US, and yeah, the things that people do, the volume that they talk on the train, or like talking on the phone really loudly on the train and things like that. I was just, almost shocked. Like 'cause it's been so long, and this wasn't the subway. This was like a commuter train or whatever, like a JR style train, right? And yeah, like a subway, I understand. The subway's crowded. The subway is pretty much going to be noisy a lot of the time, in the US at least. In Japan, though, yeah, you're supposed to be quiet on the subway most of the time. I would say that Japanese people too can be noisy on the subway, especially if it's after nomikai, like 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock.
That's true.
Japanese people are going to be noisy on the train too. But yeah, people, it's very tough because like talking on the train is so normal, at least in like, you could say in a normal voice, an inside voice or whatever, it should be allowed. And I think even in Japan, of course, you're allowed to talk on the train, but quietly. But yeah, that is a culture difference. A Japanese person's idea of talking quietly and an American's idea of talking quietly can be quite different, I think.
Yeah, but I always wonder, of course, not everybody, but especially those people who are not following the rules, do they try to, research or know the Japanese rules before they come to Japan? I always wonder because in our cases, if we go to other countries, we maybe research a lot and we try to respect. But, people who have good manners, do you think they do that?
Some things maybe, like, I don't know. Yeah, maybe they'll research some rules, or not research probably, but see that those are rules on like YouTube videos or whatever. I don't know, but I think there's a big difference between, well, maybe just culturally, Japanese people and a lot of foreign people is like, Japanese people often, even when they're tourists, right, they don't want to stand out. They want to try to fit in or not be noticed, not stand out, right? I think a lot of people from other countries don't really care about that. Like, especially when they're coming to Japan, I think they're very aware that they stand out, right? Especially if they're not Asian. Maybe for Asian tourists, it might be different, but for, let's say white people or black people or whatever, obviously they stand out. Most people in Japan will immediately see them and think, whatever, gaikokujin, gaijin, that kind of thing. So I think they're not so concerned about that. Now, I'm not saying it's okay for them to break the rules, but I do think if Japanese people look up what are the rules in this country, part of it is because they don't want to stand out,
Yeah, stand out, or also we don't want to hurt others. We want to be polite all the time. We try to be polite. And about Asian people from Asian countries too. They are sometimes too loud in public places. Then even Western people too. I always wonder, do they look it up or research? Then they really try to understand our culture. Yes, sometimes that's what I'm thinking of. But we want to be polite all the time, everywhere. And from another perspective, perhaps it might be seen as not being standing out or something. But we want to be polite. なんかちょっと難しいですね。そう、まず、今回のね、番組で僕も考えたいし、皆さんも知りたいだろうなと思ったのが、そういう外国人を見たときにどうしたらいいんだろうっていうところから、この前のターンぐらいは始まってたと思うんですよね。で、ライリーの視点的には、まず inform ってね、知らせてあげるっていう、information とかってね、情報っていう意味がありますけど、動詞としてはそれを伝えてあげる、情報を知らせてあげるっていう意味もあるので、inform してあげることは大事なんじゃないかと。で、そう、基本的には、多分、僕もね、こんだけ話してますけど、ネットで見たものばかりの話してるので、実際はそんなになんかマナー悪いみたいなことってそんな人生で経験したことないので、良識ある方が多いと思うんですよね。なので普通は多分、これダメですよとかって言ったら、基本98%、9%分かってくれる人たちだと思うので、全然伝えてあげていいと思うんですよね。ただ、そう、最初のね、タバコのお話の時にも出ましたけど、伝え方がやっぱきついと、向こうもってなっちゃうと思うので、やっぱそのね、伝え方がちゃんと伝えられるような高い英語力っていうのを身につけるのももちろん大事でしょうし、たまに結構僕すごい思うのが、日本のね、駅員さんとか、駅のスタッフの人とか、外国人にきついと思うんですよね。英語がわかんないがゆえに。Sometimes the train staff or those crews are really strict and then maybe they don't understand or they can't speak English. So in Japanese, they scream sometimes. それダメです Things like this. Maybe that's,
right.
what you were talking about, right? そう、たまにね、そう、電車とかでも指定席にね、sometimes foreign tourists are having a seat and that's a reservation area and they just don't know. But the train crew is kind of mad or furious and then they scream.たまにめっちゃブチ切れてる駅員さんとかおって、ここダメですみたいな。で、多分その人もね、最初は優しかったのかもですけど、意図的にルールを破る人たちもいっぱいいて、嫌な思いして、もう鼻から切れちゃうみたいな風にもしかしたらなっちゃったのかもなとも思うんですけど、もうちょっと優しく言うたってもええんちゃうかなって僕は見てて思うんですよね。そうなので、言い方はまず大事ですよねっていうところのお話ですよね。そう、でも、もう一個がやっぱ危険な場合もあるよねっていう。 で、そこからスケートボードの話を僕は思い出して言ったんですけど、そう、もう言ってもわかんなさそうな人たちっているじゃないですか、見た目的に。これ関わったらやべえなっていう人っていると思うので、それ日本人もそうですけど、そこにはもう関わらない方がいいですよね。なので、このエピソードを聞いてみんながみんな注意しなきゃとかと思って言っちゃって、巻き込まれてほしくないので、そこは気をつけなきゃっていうアンテナは僕も含め張っていかないといけないですよね。で、そう、次、スケートボードのは僕はもうそういうの日本でやめてってすごい思うんですけど、結構強くそこは否定するカテゴリーなんですけど、微妙なラインってあるじゃないですか。あ、わかんないんだろうな。仕方ないんだろうな。そこは僕はめちゃくちゃ許容したいタイプなので、わかるんだけれども、ちょっとここバランスきついかも、このラインが超えてきてるかもみたいな時ってあると思うんですよ。で、例えばそれが、めちゃくちゃうるさいみたいな。レストランとかで、それはもう、it's not about only in trains, at
うん、
restaurants. Yeah, yeah, at restaurants, for example, people
う
are
ん。
kind of sometimes too noisy, and my friends were working at a restaurant too. My friends are often saying they are so rude and screaming, and they don't care about others, and that's nuisance. In that
Yeah.
case, what do you think at restaurants?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm sure that's the case. I think the kind of acceptable volume in a restaurant is louder in most foreign countries,
Mm,
most other countries. Um, you know, yeah, I think also there might be something that because people are on vacation,
mm,
they're a little bit less considerate of other people because, they're on vacation, they're having fun. Maybe they've been drinking all day. I don't know.
mm,
Maybe they're and and there is also, I think this is unfortunate that because Japan is seen as this country that always follows the rules and is a very polite country. I think a lot of people, especially these kind of streamer type people, but maybe just people in general, like people in restaurants or on trains or whatever, they might take advantage of that Japanese politeness, and they know that
mm,
probably they can do something that breaks the rules a little bit, but they probably won't get in trouble for it because Japanese people probably won't tell them anything.
うん。そうやん
Um,
な。うん。
yeah, there's this kind of term that gets used a lot about in the foreigner community called gaijin smash.
うんうん。
Maybe I've talked about it in an
Yeah,
episode
yeah.
before.
Yeah.
Yeah,
うん。
where you do something that's a little bit against the rules. Like for example, okay, in Osaka this is fine, but in most cities in Japan, you're not allowed to cross the street if the light's red. People don't do it,
うんうん。
right? Like if you're walking across the street and there's the don't walk sign,
うん。
you're not supposed to. But
うん。
in America, it's fine. It's normal
う
to
ん。
do that. So people will say, oh, let's just gaijin smash and then walk across the street anyway.
うん。
And sometimes if you do that, even in like Takamatsu or other cities that are not Osaka, sometimes if you do that, Japanese people will also do it.
うん。うん。
Like it's almost like Japanese people needed someone to break the rules and then it's okay for them to do it too.
うん。
That happens sometimes.
うん。う
But
ん。
um sorry, I got a little bit um, away from the original topic. Yeah, I think people will be loud in restaurants more.
う
It's more
ん。
acceptable in other countries, I think.
うん。take advantage of を打っておいてもらって、そうですよね。そう、レストランとか、まあ、居酒屋わかるよ。全然、bars、居酒屋、that's fine。たまに、我ら日本人普通に食べてるんですけど、日常を過ごしてるんですけど、みたいなところで、いや、わかるんですよ。めっちゃ外国、今、旅行気分とかめっちゃわかるし、僕は本当にそこは人より許容範囲大きいはずなんですけど、たまに、もう周り見えてませんみたいな時があって、それはもう僕、あえてどこの国とか絶対言ってないんですけど、あるんですよね。まあ、それは欧米人だけとか、アジア圏だけとかじゃなくて、もう全体的にもうちょっと我ら日本っていうところを、日本人いるよ、みたいな、気にしてくれへんかなみたいに正直思っちゃう時はあって、例えば、block the street もう荷物広げて、スーツケースバーってなって、わかるよ。理解してあげたい気持ちもわかるけど、そこ通行人おるよな、みたいなところでバーってなってたりとか、ちょっとと思う時はまあまあありますよね。で、そういう、ところで僕がいつも思うのは、例えば、 電車とかそういうとこでうるさくするってなった時に、調べてきたりせえへんのかなって思っちゃうことって僕はあるんですよね。こう、僕は例えば外国行くときって、この国でやっちゃいけないことって何なんだろうとか、ルールって何なんだろうとか、あるいはそれでも全部分かりきらないので、空気をやっぱ僕たち読むと思うので、向こうの国に行って、あ、みんな喋ってない電車で、あ、じゃあ喋っちゃいけないんだと思って、合わせると思うんですよね。で、まあ、ライリーのさっきの視点は、それはこう、目立ちたくない、こう、もう見られたくないっていう視点があるんじゃないのっていう視点だったんですけど、もちろんそれもあると思うんですけど、その目立ちたくないっていう理由はやっぱり、礼儀正しくポライトでいたいからっていうところもあると思うんですよね。なので、決してそれは必ずしも目立ちたくないからとかじゃなくて、ちゃんとリスペクトしたいから、こう礼儀正しくいたいからっていうところでやってる人も僕は多いと思うんですよね。でもその逆となった時に、外国人が日本に来る時って、そこちょっともうちょっと調べてもらったり、周りを見るみたいなことはしてくれないのかなみたいなお話からここ始まっていて、で、今、ライリーが言ってたのが、まあ、外人スマッシュっていうのがあって、やっぱ日本、正直、まあ、外国ではまず大きな声で喋るとか OK っていうベースがあるところに、日本人優しいからあんま注意されないよねっていうところの正直アドバンテージで、こう利用しちゃってるところはあると思うっていう今お話があったんですよね。そうやな。じゃあ、we have to make the rule of, like, stop 外人スマッシュっていうルールを作らないといけない。Of course, to some extent. And そう、外人スマッシュやめてくださいっていうルールをちょっともしかしたら作ったら、もうちょっとそのルール守ってもらえることはあるのかもしれないなっていうのをお話聞いてて思いましたかね。
後半に続く